I mean, look, I'm just going to call it like it is. Star Wars is saved. Star Wars is saved.
What?
The Mandalorian and Grogu go adventures and babysitting movie or whatever this is going to be. Look, I said it last night on Mandalorian or on Main Event about Mandalorian, and I'll say it again. And we're operating under a very incredibly low bar. Okay. So I want to put the full context to what I'm saying, just like I said it last night. In no way, shape, or form would this be a normal standard win. But in the current Disney Star Wars, I think this is probably the best decision that they could have announced in reality. In reality. You know what I mean? With what's in their world. Because nobody cares about the Rey movie. Nobody cares about Ahsoka. Nobody cares about Andor. I can't believe I'm even calling it Andor at this point, but I am.
Impossible.
But no one cares about anything that's in their wheelhouse, with the exception of The Mandalorian, which has lost a lot of its shine after season 3. But Mandalorian and Baby Yoda still have a lot of normie pull. And so within the low bar that Disney Star Wars has, I think this is the best announcement they could have had. Does that make sense, Ryan?
I guess if you're talking about it being like the smartest retard in the class, you can like phrase it that way.
That's exactly how I'm looking at that.
But the reality is, this is some desperation. This is an admission that streaming has failed, that their streaming services have failed. That now what they're going to do, like those rumors said about a month ago, they're going to take what was going to be Mando season 4 and they're going to repackage it and make it into a movie, because there's no reason to put anything on Disney Plus anymore, because it's not getting them viewers. It's not gaining them subs. Their flagship show that they launched Disney Plus with is a failure. That's the reality. And so they're putting it out in theaters to try to recoup some of that money. And I think to serve as a little bit of a distraction from the really bad press they've had for the past couple weeks regarding the Rey movie. And who knows how long this has been in the works and how long they plan to announce it. But if this announcement had been made right after the finale of season 2, I think it would be taken in a much different way.
Agreed.
Now, I thought that season 2 season 2 of Mandalorian was shit, and people were blinded by jangling keys and cameos. And the quality of season 3 versus season 2 really wasn't all that different. The only difference is they ran out of jangling keys to use. So instead, Lizzo and Jack Black were the fucking jangling keys. Oh, well, Bo-Katan takes a step forward and like takes over and all this shit. But if this had been announced 2 years ago, the reaction would have been much different. Now, the viewership has fallen off. It completely split the fan base for season 3. I don't know how people can still have these delusions. Like, remember the fucking dumbass rumors 6 months ago, a year ago, where they're like, Jon Favreau had a split. He really phoned in season 3. It's like it literally just got handed a Star Wars movie instead of season 4. It's like, come the fuck on.
Well, I haven't talked to you about this yet. So what's your take on the whole? Did they basically bump Dave Filoni from this project, or is he still going to work on his Mandoverse movie?
He still has a Mandoverse movie that's like a culmination of Thrawn and Ahsoka and all this other thing. That for people that are saying that, you're also just fucking wrong. Like he's still doing that movie. This is like in addition to the 3 things that they announced. This is not replacing anything. This is not replacing. This is just, instead of making Mando season 4 and having it released maybe in like sometime in early 2025, they're just making it a movie instead. That's what's going on.
They have no idea what they are doing. It is embarrassing that anybody thinks there's a plan. All right. You have 3 Star Wars movies in development right now. Correct me if I'm wrong.
More than that. Taika Waititi's movies in development, right?
And Ryan Johnson's
other random things.
And Ryan Johnson's trilogy is still being worked on. You know, that's what I hear anyway. But okay, correct me if I'm wrong. Did they or did they not say that the Rey movie was going to be the first movie that was going to start development in 2024? Not today, but like it's previously they had said that.
Yeah, when they first made the announcements of those 3 movies, yes, that's what they said.
And now, obviously, the Mandalorian movie is going to be the first movie that's going to start development in 2024. This is a distraction for sure. Not a distraction, but it's an attempt to stop the bad press because, like you said, the last 2 weeks have been a complete shit show for Disney Star Wars. It's been bad. Now, I'm not saying that they just invented this and said, oh, we got to just put a Mandalorian. This has obviously been something that's been in the works. I'm saying the announcement is meant to offset it, just like Ryan had said earlier. But yeah, I mean, it just continues to show you that at the end of the day, Disney Star Wars has learned nothing. We are still dealing with the same garbage. There's no leadership. There's no vision. There's no true vision for what they're trying to do. And ultimately, whoever made the decision to make to make Star Wars a streaming brand is a complete idiot, which is probably Kathleen Kennedy. Star Wars is not for TV. It's not. I'm not saying it can't be successful. I'm saying that Star Wars is a movie. It's meant to be seen at the movies. That is what it is. That's what it's always been, and that's what it's always should be if it's operating correctly. And this is them course correcting once again, showing that the fans have always been right in terms of Star Wars is meant for the movies, not the streaming services. That is just the truth of it. But it doesn't matter whether it's on streaming or if it's at the movies. As long as the current creative team at Lucasfilm is involved with it, it's not going to be well received. For instance, do I think The Mandalorian is a $1 billion movie? No.
I have
It's
no
hard.
idea what to expect.
I know it's hard.
Literally
It's hard.
none.
It is hard to kind of process like what it could do. So if it starts filming in 24, if they start production in 2024, what do we look at? 2026 release?
I think earlier, because again, like this is not like start production, like, hey, let's start storyboarding and writing. They're taking what Jon Favreau had already written for Mando season 4 that they were like getting ready to film, and I think they're going to combine that into a movie. My question is, are they going to film it like Mandalorian? Are they going to use just the volume? What's the budget going to look like for it? I have a lot of very specific questions like that. Or are they going to try to go bigger, try to make it look like it actually belongs in a theater? Those are some of the questions I have regarding it. But yeah, this is not like, hey, they're taking Dave Filoni's movie away. That's not what happened. You know the 3 people that are working on this? Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and Kathleen Kennedy. They are fucking linked. I know a lot of people don't want to think that. That is the reality. That has been the reality. It will continue to be the reality. That's what's happening right now. Kathleen Kennedy wasn't the one that made season 3 bad. You know who made season 3 bad? Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. That's who made Mandalorian season 3 bad. Right? The same people that had mistakes all through the first couple seasons that some people were blinded by fucking jangling keys and cameos. The same people that worked on Ahsoka and that have worked on Book of Boba, right? They're all in on this thing all together. So I have no hope that this is, they saw what happened in season 3 and they're going to let Jon go back to what he was doing before. Bullshit. This is what they've been doing the entire time.
Let me ask, as someone that hasn't seen season 3 and did like 1 and 2, are you telling me just like straight up, it's quality wise, season 3 is exactly on the level of 1 and 2, or is it an actual drop in quality as well?
I think that in terms of the storytelling and the plot holes and the actual characters that you can't really connect to, I think it's very similar to season 2. The difference is people didn't like the characters or the way they were utilized as much in season 3, right? Because think of season 2, it was just a cameo fest.
Yeah.
Nearly every fucking episode, Ahsoka, Bo-Katan, Boba Fett, Luke fucking Skywalker, right? Mandalorian just happens to run into like everybody that's like relevant in the known galaxy at this point in time that you've ever seen in a cartoon or another live action Star Wars series. Do you remember what I said in the aftermath of in FNT, in the aftermath of that season 2 finale where everybody was coming their pants over Luke Skywalker's dead-faced return? I said I feel like I felt during Force Awakens, where everybody's like on this like hype level, but there's like nothing there. It's all built plot holes and bullshit and like nostalgia bait. And I feel like that is now the reality when you go back and look at season 2, if you do a rewatch of season 2, because you don't have these cameos that are barely keeping this thing standing.
Yeah.
And so I don't personally think there's a big difference in terms of the actual story and plot. I think people just didn't like the characters as much that ended up showing up in season 3.
Well, it's clear that the audience definitely, and again, haven't seen season 3, didn't want to see it, but it's clear that there was a massive drop-off in terms of just how people perceived it, regardless as to why that is. And that is the lasting impression that the audience has right now moving into a Mandalorian movie, which, again, man, it's so hard to gauge how this all looks and feels. And so right now, officially, that, I guess, I mean, again, the Taika Waititi movie's out there, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if any of these movies are actually going to happen outside of this Mandalorian movie now. I don't know.
I think
mean,
the
I
Ray
guess,
movie will happen, and I think Filoni's movie will happen. The James Mangold one that's the one I kind of question because I think that's the one that has the least interest, like from
yeah.
anybody.
Do you think
Like
Indiana Jones has anything to do with that?
I actually think that Indiana Jones is the reason that got announced. I think that they know that they knew it was going to be such a fucking colossal failure, and like Mangold kind of came in there after other people had already worked on it. I think he got a Star Wars movie because his reputation suffered with Indiana Jones. That's personally what I think. That they gave him as like an award to be like, please don't be mad at us. And we know we put you in a really bad position. Here's a Star Wars movie you can direct. That's what I think.
Okay. But now do you think because of the negativity of Indiana Jones, could that potentially affect him working on that project, the Star Wars project, because of how bad of a failure? Because I don't think they were anticipating Indiana Jones losing that much money, even though it's not his fault. It's almost like he's just going to be collateral damage.
I think that James Mangold has a good enough reputation to filmmaker that that's not going to happen.
He is a hell of hit, man.
As much as I fucking hate his guts, and I think he's a fucking loser.
Almost said the gamer word.
Yeah, I just don't like. I do think he's a good filmmaker, and he's shown that. So I don't think that his reputation is going to suffer just because him, along with every other person who's ever worked on a Star Wars movie, it ended up being shit.
Noted. All right. Well, I guess we're gonna see what happens with all of this. But I mean, do you have what else? So, I mean, overall, what are your overall thoughts on this Mandalorian situation? What do you think it's gonna be successful? Do you think it's gonna how do you think it's all gonna play out?
I just think it's funny to see like the same conversations people have been having or trying to push for like 3 or 4 years about some sort of, oh, well, he was leaving, but now he's okay. And all that stuff is the funniest thing, the thing that makes me like smile and roll my eyes about the entire situation. Also, the fact that other than Jeff Snyder, who's the one that brought this up, like a month ago, that they were looking at plans to make Mando season 4 into a movie. Other than that, it's weird how all these people with like insider sources were fucking like, good. This came out of the blue to them. Thought that was weird. But yeah, other than that, we'll see what happens. I think probably I wouldn't be surprised if it starts shooting fairly early in 2024 and we end up seeing this thing sometime in the middle of 2025 or maybe at the end of 2025.
What a shit show, man. What a shit show. Now, I guess, okay, so the other thing, and a lot of people speculate on this, do you think, because you just said you think the Rey movie's happening, so you don't think that they're going to move on from the Rey movie and put this as the focus? Because again, everything that's happened in the past 2 weeks has had nothing to do with Disney as a recent announcement. This has been like just because people have picked up those comments from months and months ago, and it's kind of recirculated, and a lot of big anti-woke accounts have picked it up. But it's not like Disney made like any formal announcements recently about the Rey movie or an update or anything like that. And all of a sudden, all of this controversy is blown up, and it's blown up in a massive way. So you're telling me you don't think that they want to silently move away from the Rey movie?
You know what? If they wanted to silently move away from the Rey movie, then there would have been no reason to put the last paragraph in their own announcement on StarWars.com, which is the Mandalorian and Grogu will lead Lucasfilm's ongoing feature development slate, including films helmed by Sharmino Obaid-Chinoy, James Mangold, and Dave Filoni, who's currently also developing Ahsoka Season 2.
They are retarded, though.
But that's what I'm saying. If it purely was about like moving away from that, this is not taking the place of the Rey movie. The Rey movie is not going to be released until probably December of 2026, right? Based on the fact that it's finishing up writing as we speak. That's probably going to be like the goal for them is 2026. So no, this is not taking the place. We're going to see this way before I think a lot of people think, because they're just taking season 4 and
making it into a movie.
Yeah. Like they're taking what Jon Favreau had already written for season 4 and they're making it a movie. I think this was a recent development, like over the past month and a half, that they decided to do something like this. And I think it's because a couple things. Disney has realized that they have failed the streaming game. You know what all the most watched things on Disney Plus are when they come out? It's not these original things that come out. It's the things that are released in theaters. When they come to Disney Plus, they're the most watched. Like a Little Mermaid and Elemental and all that shit that's already releasing in theaters. those are the things that like break records for people watching them.
So things that get at least some level of promotion and put it on people's radar, and then it hits the streaming service after the cinematic release.
And I don't know why. I don't know if it is because of that promotion or whatever, but like that's the reality they're faced with. They're spending, $200 million on a Marvel show while they're spending $250 million and all this other bullshit on Little Mermaid. They're getting the theatrical results. They still lost money in the theater, but then it goes on Disney Plus and performs better than those things that don't get the benefit of any theatrical release anyway. So that's kind of where I see it. I think that's what they've realized with this. We might as well, if we're going to fucking spend $100 million and all this time, effort, and energy, let's put it out in the theaters, then let it go on streaming, and we'll kind of get the best of both worlds.